Well, hey everybody. My name is Willie Lawson. This is the YouTube channel called Fight Back 2020. And man, what a mess! What a hot mess we got going on. Going on all over the country. Really, we've got mixed messages. We got too many chiefs, not enough Indians. We have people who think that government should work one way when it actually should work the other. It should work inside out, not outside in. And this is causing problems, not just around the country, but here in the state of Florida. But before we get to that, I want to get to some of the mixed messages and the missed messages that have started and that continue during this coronavirus craziness. First of all, we're going to start with Mayor de Blasio from New York. And at the beginning of all of this is what the mayor had to say.
For the vast majority of New Yorkers, life is going on pretty normally right now, and we want to encourage that. Look, we've got to look out for people here, especially those who are over 50 years old and have pre-existing conditions like lung disease, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. These are the folks we really, really need to be careful for. But if you're under 50 and you're healthy, which is most New Yorkers, there's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu. And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception that coronavirus hangs in the air waiting to catch you. No, it takes direct person-to-person contact, direct transmission of fluids. So what we're finding is we're giving New Yorkers a lot of guidance about how to be careful, wash your hands more, use hand sanitizer, cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Here's an easy one, Willie. If you're an older person, and especially if you have those pre-existing conditions, don't visit folks who are sick. You want to see your grandchildren, they have the sniffles, that's not the time to see them. So what I'm finding is New Yorkers are pretty tough, and they're listening, and they're making adjustments. But our schools are running. And we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We're not even shutting down that school long term. We're going to go in, clean that school, isolate individuals who had that really direct contact, and then get up and running. We'll have a day where a school is shut to get reset, then get back up and running. Because people's livelihoods are at stake. Parents need a place for their kids. We can stay safe, but still keep our lives going, our economy going. People have to pay the rent. People need money for food, etc. We cannot shut down because of undue fear. That's my concern.
So you were here last.
We cannot shut down to undue fear. And right now, New York, the state of New York, has 44% of the coronavirus cases in the country and has the most deaths. Okay, there we go. So there were people who listened to what the mayor had to say. They listened to what the mayor had to say. And just a few days later, you get this from the mayor's constituency.
The risk to New Yorkers for coronavirus is low, and that our preparedness as a city is very high. There is no reason not to take the subway, not to take the bus, not to go out to your favorite restaurant, and certainly not to miss the parade next Sunday. I'm going to be there.
Now, and as things wore on, some of these very same officials looked to D.C., looked to Washington and said, well, Trump didn't take it very seriously. No, he was cautious. But did he give them license not to take it seriously? Do you think that didn't supply de Blasio and this councilwoman from New York took it seriously? Go to the parade. We're going to go to school. We're going to go to work, go to restaurants, hang out, get on the subway, that little petri dish that is always the New York City subway. Yes, right? Confusion. And I think this confusion is basically because we have an upside down view of how government is supposed to work. we have this view, and a lot of you have this view that it is the federal government that takes the lead, when that's exactly the opposite. It's the local government that must take the lead, and then the state government, if it's connected to the Constitution of that state, then supports. And then it's the federal government that supports the states. Inside, out. That's how it works. Otherwise, it is confusing and ridiculous and outrageous. Here in the state of Florida, on last Sunday, you probably already heard that there was a church in the Tampa area that the pastor was arrested for holding church services. Well, yeah, that's the narrative. The truth of the matter is that he was arrested for holding a church service and not practicing the safe distancing guidelines. That was the thing. Now, there are other interpolitical, local stuff going on there for sure, but let's not talk about any of that right now. So he was arrested. He actually, an arrest warrant was issued to the pastor, and the pastor went to jail for a certain amount of time, got bailed out, and is now at home. Basically for ignoring the idea that his church, because it's a big church, could not meet. The church and its officials say that it is a flagrant abuse of or misuse of the First Amendment. Their First Amendment rights say that they can meet, that there can be no restrictions on religion and or assembly. That one's more important even than religion. Assembly. And so they did twice. Now this particular church can live stream. The reason that most people found out was that it was live streamed. Their services are live streamed all the time. So that wasn't the case. So it wasn't the case of, well, maybe they couldn't. No, they could. They do all the time. So this was going to be a spark point. This was going to be a set it off point as things went on, and certainly they were here in the state of Florida. The local Sheriff Chronister, issued an arrest warrant for the pastor, and again, like I said, he was arrested and is now guilty of a second-degree misdemeanor. And in all of this, now the governor, Ron DeSantis of the state of Florida, had to offer an edict, an executive order, because of how we have this upside down. Now, what the governor might have done is this. The governor's legal people might have looked at the local orders to see if they were in line with the Florida State Constitution and the Constitution of the United States, and either supported them or not. But what the governor did was something else entirely different. He wrote his own order, because people had been pressuring him. Local government had been pressuring him. Oh, please tell us what to do. Sort of reminds me of the thing that you see on The Price is Right. Oh, sound effects lady, did I get at least one number right? Right? It's ridiculous. So he did. So he wrote. I mean, this is a number. I mean, this is not the first executive order on these subjects that the governor wrote. But the idea about all these are essential activities. In the governor's in the governor's executive order, he made essential activities the following, and I'll read them to you: attending attending religious services conducted in churches, synagogues, and houses of worship as essential activities. Essential activities are things like participating in recreational activities consistent with social distancing guidelines, such as walking, biking, hiking, fishing, hunting, running, swimming, jumping, right? Taking care of your pets, taking them for walks and doing whatever you have to do, caring for others, like assisting loved ones or friends, and other essential activities may be added to the list with the approval of the state coordinating officer and close coordination with the state health officer. The state coordinating officer shall maintain an online list of the essential activities as specified in this order. There you go. A social gathering in a public place is not an essential activity. Local jurisdictions shall ensure that groups of people greater than 10 are not permitted to congregate in a public space. So now we're talking about public spaces. Basically, we're talking about parks, right? We're talking about parks. We're talking about on sidewalks. That, my friends, is a completely another issue. The right to association is what we're talking about here, and that's a completely different issue. And we're going to get with some people here in the next few days and have them on and discuss some of this stuff. Now, here's the problem now. The governor signed, a few hours after that, he signed another sort of super secret double probation Animal House executive order. This is why these things coming from the top down are problematical. The second order was reported by a local newspaper, said that the state guidelines taking effect on tomorrow morning or Friday morning supersede any conflicting official actions or order issued by local officials in response to COVID-19. It seems to suggest that counties and cities could not place limitations that would be more strict than the statewide guidelines. Well, it would seem to be that if the statewide guidelines were to follow the Constitution of the state and the Constitution of the United States, well, no, they couldn't. Of course they couldn't. The problem is that the local government should have done that in the first damn place. Local governments are not immune to following the state constitution or the constitution of the country. Their guidelines, no matter how well meant, must follow the same guidelines as any of the constitutions that rule them. Their county charter, their city charter, the state constitution, and of course the Constitution of the United States. And like I said, now that the governor has written this in one of his executive orders, and it shouldn't have to be an executive order. It should be common sense. You can't. What do you go by? The Constitution of the United States. Is this local order flagrantly violating one of the flagrantly violating one of the things in the Constitution? If it is, then it's not valid, whether it's from a city council member or a county commission member or a state house member or a state senate member. It doesn't matter. If it violates the Constitution, then it is not valid. Then it's invalid. So now no one knows. DeSantis says, I don't know that governments would have the authority, quite frankly, to close religious institutions. The Constitution doesn't get suspended here. If that's the case, that would mean Hillsborough County can't enforce its emergency measure to shut down houses of worship. a rule that drew national attention. Of course, the ire of the local Republican Party. Somebody woke them up. Are you guys awake? Oh, okay. Well, apparently they're up. With the case that I just mentioned. So DeSantis issued a second order, super secret probation, double probation, to provide clarity. The document says it did anything but, really. Under the prior order, cities and counties could not allow activities that the state prohibited, but they could issue tougher stay-at-home orders. DeSantis says Thursday that this is still the case, despite signing a new directive that seems to say it's the opposite. The discrete circumstances in which, well, I don't want you even getting into that, but the idea is, are we going to go by the Constitution or not? Our local governments, Mayor Castor, Ken Hagen, Les Miller, Rick Kreisman, are we going to go by the Constitution or not? Because that's not just the nation's or the federal government's founding documents, that's your founding documents too. This is the crisis that we are in. Are we going to go by the Constitution? And we're going to find out Sunday, aren't we? We're going to find out Sunday. Sheriff Chronister has already said that they are keeping an eye on Pastor Brown's church, and people are going to meet there. Mayor Castor has already said that she would shut down the church. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That she would shut down the church. So we're going to see here in a little bit, are we living under the Constitution or are we not living under the U.S. Constitution? Is the U.S. Constitution valid here or is it not valid here? That's what we're going to find out. We're going to find out in a little bit. Till we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. Peace.